able to connect. So we'll ask David Serero to join us next. David, we will, let's see, go live with David Serero. Go live. Okay, so David, we'll ask David to join us. Our third guest of the evening is David Serero. David, hello, David.
Hello, my dear Rodney. How are you?
Fantastic. How are you, my friend?
Thank you so much for having me. You have no idea how much I appreciate you, how much I love what you're doing, and I really, really enjoyed the two other um, people that who spoke about what they're doing. I love that. I love people who do things, and you are one of them. So I love you, man.
Uh,
You're
uh,
amazing. You came
Thank
to see
you.
my show couple of times, and you're always a wonderful supporter. So it's
Thank
really
you.
an honor, man.
Thank you. Well, David, I'll tell you what. I came to your show, as you mentioned, a couple of times, and I got to tell you, I know that it's different now in the COVID era, but before COVID, I think you were, what the expression is, the hardest working man in show business. You were doing a different show like every other week. and,
Yeah, I know,
and
I know.
you always had something going on. You're always traveling back and forth between New York and Morocco and the
Friends,
United
yeah.
Arab Emirates and all over the place. David, for those that don't know Eric, I'm sorry, for don't know David, David
Uh-huh.
Serero is he's an actor, he's a producer, he's a director, and he's also an internationally renowned opera star.
Oh,
Uh,
you're kind. Yeah.
it's very kind, but it's the truth.
Oh,
And
you're too
David,
kind. Yeah.
David, when I saw him, he was doing one of his many adaptations of Shakespeare, and at the time he was doing it with the at the Center for Jewish History. It was a production of Romeo and Juliet. I think the first one I saw was a production of Romeo and Juliet, and that you had transferred that into, instead of the Montagues and Capulets. In Italy, it was the Sephardi versus Ashkenazi Jews, and that schism. And it was really interesting. And I tell you what, David, I mentioned this at the top of the show that the New York Shakespeare scene, it's very much like walking into an ice cream shop, and
Yeah.
there's so many different flavors, and yours is a very unique flavor unto itself, because you have it's Shakespeare, but you have opera in there, and you have some comedy elements in there, and you have some all kind of things that
I
are
put
there.
all the flavors, as a
You put
matter of
all
fact, you know.
flavors. You make a milkshake out of all those flavors. And I tell you what, I at first I was looking around. I wasn't sure what to think, because it was a
Yeah.
very different flavor of Shakespeare. I enjoyed
Yeah.
it, but it was very different. And then I looked around and I see the audience was roaring. You
Yeah.
had the audience in the palm of your hand. So whatever it is you're doing, you got the right audience for it. They
Oh, you're
love
a
what you do.
sweetheart. Yeah.
So tell us about how you came about putting together all these adaptations of Shakespeare, how you connected
Mhm.
with the Center for Jewish History and all of that.
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you again for coming. Thank you for mentioning all that you have said. Well, I ever since I started, to do my own theater shows, it was always the desire to be a singular, to do something that was unique. I had wonderful acting teachers who taught me, who always gave me that phrase, which was, why should I pay a ticket theater to see you while I can see all the biggest one on Broadway? And that
Right.
was like 20 years ago. So now the challenges are even stronger because you have YouTube. So now you can
Right.
watch all the big guys from the comfort of your living room. So
Hmm.
it was always my desire to bring something unique. So I always say, don't be like anybody else, be unique. So I did, of course, all the very classical thing, all the pure thing, in opera, in classical theater. I did the thing very military, very strict, classical,
Hmm.
which I really enjoyed. And
Hmm.
then when I started to do my own shows, I wanted to make them a little bit more personal, and I did adaptation with always a little twist. So
Right.
so I did, so many, I cannot even remember how many. I do about, a dozen of Broadway productions per season. So times 20 years, of course, I started back in my native Paris, but Then after that particular relationship with the Center for Jewish History, Center for Jewish History is really technically only the walls. It's really it's a bunch of organizations that are combined become the Center for Jewish History. So it was mostly with the American Sephardi Federation, with my dear friends over there. And I said, look, it started with the Merchant of Venice. And as always, I've been very lucky and grateful to have venues who gave me the keys of the houses. They say, we love what you're doing. We know that you're going to make 200% of what is humanly and physically possible to bring the best artistic results, but also the best financial results, and also to have the house packed,
Right.
and to give audience satisfaction. I think
Hmm.
always what's the best from the perspective of the audience satisfaction. This has always been my priority. Um,
And that's what I was saying. You really you read the audience and what they wanted. You gave them exactly what they wanted and more. They were roaring.
exactly.
They loved it.
Yeah, and then I understood a little bit how can I be unique, especially in America, because as you can hear my accent, from France. So
Hmm.
how can I be here with an accent and do Shakespeare? And there is a guy that I really admire, it's Tyler Perry, by example, where he wrote his own adaptation, directed, starred in them, and
Right.
produced them because he knows his beautiful black audience
Hmm.
and their jokes and the culture and everything. So me, of course, I know the Jewish culture. So
Hmm.
it was very interesting for me to bring Shakespeare a little bit that can speak and where the Jewish culture can, the Jewish community can connect to it. By
Right.
example, I started with The Merchant of Venice, of course,
Hmm.
that a lot of people say, oh, it's an anti-Semitic play, which I guarantee you it's not. And I play Shylock, and it
Hmm.
was like one of my, uh, I mean, at least in my top five roles, with the Othello, etc. And that was a big success because I added a lot of Jewish melodies, etc. Then I did Othello,
Hmm.
that I did in a Moroccan Jewish style also. And there is a lot with Morocco for Othello because the lead character was influenced by Shakespeare from the Sultan of Morocco. So I did a lot of researches about that. And, that Romeo and Juliet also to bring some sort of a comedy into it. And of course, with the center, we have many other projects, which unfortunately are a little bit cut due to the COVID. But
Right.
that's definitely, like a Hamlet in a Jewish style, which would be Chaimlet. Uh, so a lot of stuff like this that I love to do. It's I was and in all my shows I rewrite the adaptation. So really, the story of Shakespeare, I really use kind of the synopsis and some of the key scenes, like how you say, like the balcony scene with Juliet. I use some of these scenes, but then after I rewrite, I add a lot of jokes. I add songs of the Jewish music, etc. And by example, for Romeo and Juliet, I end up with Ariana Grande. Thank you next.
That was really
So
fun.
that's
That was
that's one of the things that I love is to take classics and add what I call my champagne, and it's part of my own school because I started really from the very very strict classical theater and opera, and I do stand-up comedy, and so all of that, and I love SNL, by example. So all of that mix, creates a unique universe.
so. After the COVID hit and everything got shut down, and as you were saying, you were doing a 12-show season, which is crazy. That's a lot of shows,
Plus
and
concerts,
and between that,
plus
you're doing concerts and you're doing like command performances for the the Sultan, and you're really a one-man show traveling around the
you're
world.
too kind. Yeah.
But
I love to work. I
what
love to work.
what have you been doing in this time that you haven't been able to work because of the COVID situation? What's been going on for you?
Honestly, I didn't stop to work for a single day. I mean, I was a little bit tired when the COVID started. I'm pretty sure I caught it, you know, like I think 95% of the people in New York City.
Probably.
So I got a little bit of rest for like a week or two, and I had really a general fatigue, because before there was really the lockdown, every day I was producing actually a musical Anne Frank, which I did at the Center for Jewish History. It was a
Right.
smash hit, like it was sold out every night, and I brought it to the Actors Temple for big
40
series
seconds.
of performances. Yeah, beautiful theater. I say
Right.
hello to my friends there, and then what happened is that I had to shut down the show 2 hours before the very first premiere.
Oh
You know,
goodness.
so I mean, I'm lucky I live a block away from the theater, you
Right.
know. But it was really, emotionally a little bit tough. So I was happy, and at the beginning we didn't know. We thought it was shot for 2 weeks. We didn't know,
Right. Who knew it was
we're
going to
going
be
for like a
4 or
year
5
and a half,
months? Right.
perhaps, I don't know. But
Right.
so I took some rest, and then I always had a lot of projects that I didn't have time to finish. I wrote a lot of books, a lot of plays that I didn't have time to finish. I had maybe about 30 different plays that are published, but there were a lot of new ones that I didn't have time to finish, and books and recordings and all this kind of stuff. So I was very, very happy to finish them. I see you even
Sure.
put one of my new stuff, Scarface,
Right.
which I
Scarface.
was able to also bring a little bit more forward. And I did a partnership also with Amazon, where I was able to bring some of my shows, the videos, to bring them on Amazon Prime on their platform.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so of course, originally these shows, they were filmed with 1, 2 cameras. We didn't know that, there would be all that streaming theater and all this stuff. So um, but definitely for the future production, I would definitely invest into a stronger filming,
Okay.
because we know that now it's a big secondary market as a
Right.
producer,
Right.
uh, to bring the shows, and also it reaches out to more people with Amazon Prime. I have, like thousands of unique stream per day,
Wow.
which is really amazing. And now I'm opening with the Amazon in Germany and in Japan. So it's amazing that people are excited to watch my Shakespeare adaptation with the Jewish twist in New York City, done by a French Moroccan Jew, you know what I
Okay.
mean?
Right.
Who brings opera, who brings burlesque, who brings stand-up comedy, who brings classical theater, and someone is in Japan and watches all of that. That's the beauty of Shakespeare, you
I
know.
think I think that's amazing, and that's something I was talking about in the beginning of the show. Is that it's this situation, even though it's been very difficult and very it's a strain for a lot of people. It's also caused this incredible burst of creativity and finding new ways to channel this creative energy. So I'm very happy all this is happening for you, David. David, where can people find you to catch up with all the amazing things that you are up to now and will be up to, I'm sure, 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have now a Scarface, which is
Mm,
a musical about Al Capone, which I arrange with a modern twist, and I really feel the character of Al Capone is like Othello. He's a very strong Shakespearean role. So I took jazz standards and I adapted them with hip hop, and we have some singles that are already released. So I'm working on that, and people can follow it, of course, on Instagram, David Serero, on Twitter, David Serero, and my Facebook page, David Serero Opera, where there is my they call it personal individual one, but me, I'm open to anybody. It's just David Serero. People can call me and I tell them.
all right, David. It's so nice catching up with you, David. I wish you all the best, and we'll keep in touch. I hope to see you.
Anytime, my dear brother. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Congrats for all you're doing. Thank you for the support.
Thank you, my friend. Good stuff.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so that was opera and theater, and now Amazon star David Serero. Okay, we are going to try in our last moments here to connect with